Now, over the last 6 to 9 months, I've been hearing a lot of buzz about a certain cologne, Blue Atlas Atlantis. Whether it's from online forums, YouTube videos, or just from other people that know I'm heavily into fragrances, this one has had a lot of hype. That's why I was very excited when Blue Atlas reached out to me and wanted to sponsor today's video. It's given me a chance to really give this one a thorough test. And I'm very excited to share with you today a cologne I've been anticipating trying for quite a while. And of course, I'm gonna have a link in the description if you wanna try out Blue Atlas Atlantis for yourself. Now, if you're new here, welcome, Jeff, your style OG. On this channel, we discuss various men's lifestyle topics such as style, grooming, and dating every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. I invite you to subscribe, tap the notification bell, and join us. And to my returning friends like Philip Meza, salute. Now, when Blue Atlas talks about Atlantis, they describe it as such. They say it's a fragrance that was inspired by the sights and scents of the coastal jungle in Bali. It's meant to inspire adventure and wanderlust. Sounds pretty good for advertising copy, but let's talk about what I've experienced over the last couple of weeks wearing it myself. Now, with Blue Atlas Atlantis, the size that it comes in, a healthy 3.4 ounces or 100 milliliters, and it's offered in eau de parfum concentration. Now, for the uninitiated, the concentration of a fragrance describes the percentage of perfume oil in said fragrance. With most men's colognes, you either get eau de toilette or eau de parfum. Eau de toilette, you usually see a concentration between about 8 to 12% perfume oil. As opposed to eau de parfum, you're gonna get 12 to 18%. And what this generally leads to, when you have an eau de parfum concentration, comparing it to eau de toilette, the eau de parfum is gonna be richer and it's typically gonna last longer. So I'm very excited that Blue Atlas Atlantis is an eau de parfum. Now, when Blue Atlas set out to make Atlantis, they wanted to give a premium product. And I think they've done that inside and out. First of all, let's talk about the presentation. I really love the design elements you have here. Matte black finish, very elegant, very smooth, very sophisticated. I like that the bottle has a nice, sleek, handsome design. It feels heavy, substantial, and premium when holding it in your hand. Not to mention Blue Atlas Atlantis comes in this nice matte black box. The matte black box has a nice magnetic clasp, making it very easy to open and close. And I like the design elements on the bottle. The nice raised embossed BA, along with the subtle lettering of Atlantis across the bottom of the bottle. It has this nice, very functional magnetic top that goes on and stays on very easily. Not to mention, I love the design and the functionality of the sprayer, or the atomizer for my more fragrance-educated guys out there. With the atomizer on Blue Atlas Atlantis, it's pressurized, meaning you can spray a lot or a little. Overall, I'm extremely impressed about the presentation and packaging of Blue Atlas Atlantis. Now let's move on to the more important part, what's inside. Now, having worn Blue Atlas Atlantis over the last couple of weeks, I would describe it as a citrusy, fresh, smooth, tropical scent. Very versatile, very balanced. I would describe it as a fragrance that does have mass appeal, but it still manages to be very distinct. And it arrives at this great fragrance with a combination of top notes of bergamot, lemon, and black currant. In the mids, you have some lavender, peach, apricot, and clary sage. In the base, you have oak moss, orris, amber seeds, all combined to give you a scent that has a very distinct difference between the different layers, from the opening to the mids to the base. That's one of the things I really like about Atlantis. It's not linear. You do notice changes from when you spray it on to what you smell through the mids, and then for the rest of the day after it's completely dried down. To me, that's one of the biggest selling points about this fragrance. And when you first apply Blue Atlas Atlantis, what you're gonna get predominantly is the citrus. You're gonna get that lemon. You're gonna get that bergamot. Excellent blast of citrusy, fresh, and crisp. But what I like about the opening, then comes in the black currant. The black currant does an excellent job of balancing out that citrusy feel. It gives you a little warmth, a little spice, a little woodsiness, doing a great job of counterbalancing the lemon and the bergamot, giving you what I've experienced in the opening, a very balanced, complex scent. Now, as we settle into the mids of this cologne over the next 20-30 minutes, what you're gonna get there predominantly is that lavender and the apricot. The lavender really is gonna give you that fresh, clean, aromatic vibe. Love the lavender touch. Then what you really start to notice, which to me is one of my favorite parts of Blue Atlas Atlantis, is that apricot, along with the peach, which adds a nice fruity, sweet, sophisticated feel. really makes this one stand out for a lot of other mass appealing fragrances. Then I also detect in the mids that clary sage coming in. Now with the clary sage, it gives you a nice green, earthy feel. Once again, giving you a nice balanced feel throughout the mids, just like you did in the opening. The clary sage, a nice subtle touch that you detect just beneath the surface. Now as we completely dry down and move into the base, in comes a bit of oak moss and the musk. This adds some warmth, some woodiness, a nice earthy masculine vibe. Really love how the base counteracts a little bit of the fruitiness and the freshness that we saw in the opening and the mids. Not to mention, in addition to the oak moss and the musk, I really start to feel that violet coming in, giving you a little bit of a powdery feel. So although you do get that oak moss and that musk, giving you that masculine, woody, warm feel, the violet counterbalances it, making sure that Blue Atlas Atlantis doesn't come off as too heavy. Because Atlantis does an excellent job of pulling off balance throughout the opening, the mids, and the base, it really lends not only to it being distinct, but to its wearability, its versatility. So now that you know what Blue Atlas Atlantis smells like, let's get into the performance. Now performance is another place that Blue Atlas Atlantis shines. As opposed to a lot of fresh, clean scents, Blue Atlas is on the higher end when it comes to performance. Now with most fresh, clean scents, I usually get maybe 4, 5, 6 hours. Blue Atlas Atlantis, over the last couple of weeks, I've easily been able to get 7, 8, sometimes even 9 hours of longevity, making Blue Atlas Atlantis an excellent choice for a signature fresh scent. Now let's move into the projection of Blue Atlas Atlantis. Now with Atlantis, you're gonna get what you typically expect from a fresh, clean scent. Mild to moderate projection. This one isn't gonna blow people out of the water. It isn't a projection monster. Fresh, clean scents aren't meant to be. Now let's talk about Blue Atlas Atlantis' sillage. Just like we talked about when we were discussing projection, Blue Atlas performs like a typical fresh, clean scent. Average sillage. It's mild to moderate, not obnoxious, not boisterous. People will notice it, but they won't be bowled over by it. Now let's talk about when I would recommend you wear Blue Atlas Atlantis. To me, this is an excellent candidate for a signature scent. You definitely can get away wearing it year-round, but I think it works best from early spring to late fall. It has that kind of versatility. However, I probably would lean away from it in the coldest months of winter. When the temperature really drops, I suggest you grab something a little heavier, a little warmer. Now let's talk about where I would wear it. This one, like I said, very versatile, a candidate for a signature scent. You definitely can wear this one to the office, to schools, meetings, most social situations. This is one that people will notice, they will love it, and I highly recommend Blue Atlas Atlantis for a first date. For a first date, I like a distinct, unique cologne, but one that isn't too overpowering or in your face. You want your date to have to get close to smell it on you. Now, in what situations would Blue Atlas not work as well? I don't think this is a club cologne or a cologne you want to wear when you want to make a powerful statement. Now let's talk about who I think Blue Atlas Atlantis works very well for. Now remember, this is a refined, smooth, subtle scent, an elegant, sophisticated fragrance. It works for guys who think of themselves as that. However, the freshness, the fruitiness, the sweetness of it doesn't make this a stuffy, too grown man, too old head of a scent. So the age ranges I see this one working very well for, I would say 22 and up. Now, as far as my overall takeaway from the last couple of weeks of wearing Blue Atlas Atlantis, what first comes to mind, this is a very versatile, very distinct scent. It does a great job of standing out, but still having some wearability. And one of the things I definitely want to point out is in the mids and throughout the day, how the apricot and the peach come in. The peach and the apricot make Blue Atlas Atlantis very distinct. Think about Creed Adventures, a nice, fresh, masculine scent, but what makes it stand out is the pineapple. Now, Blue Atlas Atlantis and Creed Adventures don't smell similar. The way that apricot and peach comes out in Blue Atlas Atlantis, it really reminds me of the pineapple in the Creed Adventures. Now, when it comes to the overall buzz and hype around Blue Atlas Atlantis, in my humble opinion, it definitely lives up to it. Not only do you get an excellent, very wearable cologne, it doesn't smell like anything else, but it wears its uniqueness in a very smooth, subtle, refined way. So if you're looking for a versatile, fresh, tropical, smooth, crisp scent, don't hesitate to hit that link in the description and grab yourself a bottle of Blue Atlas Atlantis. Now I want to take some time to definitely thank Blue Atlas for sponsoring today's video. Not only did they send over a great product, them sponsoring today's video enables me to continue to bring you the excellent content I try to deliver on this channel on a regular basis. When you support great sponsors like Blue Atlas, you allow me to continue to do so.